First story, whispers behind her eyes. It all began when my fiancée, Hannah, moved into my apartment in Spokane, Washington. We'd been together for almost 2 years, and I thought I knew her. Sweet, funny, a little quirky, just enough to keep things interesting. But within the first few weeks of her moving in, something shifted. Subtly at first. The first thing I noticed was how she started talking in her sleep. At first, it was harmless murmuring, but then it turned into full sentences. Low, guttural words that didn't sound like English, and didn't sound like her. One night, I heard her say, "He's watching from the walls." I tried waking her, but her eyes just fluttered open and then shut again, like she wasn't really there. A few days later, I found her standing in the hallway at 3 in the morning, facing the wall, whispering to it. I thought she might be sleepwalking. I gently led her back to bed, but she looked at me with this vacant stare and said, "You don't belong here anymore." Then she laughed. Not her laugh. Something darker. She stopped going to work. She didn't call her parents. When I asked what was going on, she just smiled and said, "They're teaching me things you wouldn't understand." I wanted to believe it was stress, or maybe some kind of breakdown. But deep down I felt it. Something else had taken hold of her. One night, while I was brushing my teeth, I heard her crying in the living room. When I came out, she was sitting on the floor, pulling out clumps of her hair, whispering again in that same strange language. I shouted her name, but she didn't even flinch. Then suddenly, her head snapped up, and she looked at me. "I'm going to kill you," she said in a voice that was not hers. "You won't even see it coming." She lunged at me. Her strength, it wasn't human. I barely managed to shove her off and lock myself in the bathroom. She scratched at the door like a wild animal, growling, laughing, hissing, hissing. It stopped after what felt like hours. When I finally came out, she was gone. Just gone. I left the apartment that night and stayed in a motel. I didn't call the police. I didn't know what to say. My girlfriend's possessed? They'd think I was crazy. Instead, I did what any desperate man would do. I looked for help, any kind. That's when I found Marcus. Marcus wasn't a priest. He didn't wear robes or carry a cross. But the people on the forum swore he'd help them. So, 2 days later, we came back to my apartment. I was terrified she'd be waiting with a knife, but instead we found her lying still on the bed, pale, lips slightly parted, eyes wide open and staring at the ceiling. Marcus stepped forward and muttered something under his breath. Latin, maybe. He drew symbols in the air, lit a candle. That's when it all began. Her body convulsed violently, like something inside was trying to claw its way out. The lights flickered. The walls groaned. Objects flew off the shelves and smashed against the walls. Hannah shrieked, a sound so shrill it felt like it pierced my skull. Her back arched and she began to rise, slowly, inches above the bed, floating in midair. I couldn't move. I was frozen. Then her head turned toward me, completely backward, and she screamed my name. That was the last thing I remembered. When I woke up, I was in a jail cell in downtown Spokane. My shirt was soaked in blood. An officer told me I'd been arrested for the murder of Hannah Kelly. They said I beat her to death and then mutilated her body. I kept telling them I didn't do it, that I wasn't even conscious. But they showed me the security footage from a neighbor's outdoor camera. It showed me leaving the apartment alone. No Marcus. No exorcism. Nothing. There was no record of Marcus ever existing. No fingerprints. No online posts. Nothing. The trial lasted only a few days. The evidence was stacked against me. I was sentenced to life without parole. But every night in that cold, gray cell, I hear her, whispering. "She's still with you," the guards say. They don't believe me, but I know the truth. She never left. Second story. The silence after midnight. I never believed in curses, at least not until the winter I moved to Morgan's Hollow. It's a tiny town buried deep in the northern woods of Washington state. Quiet, secluded, the kind of place where time seems to slow down, where everyone knows everyone, and no one dares speak of what happened on the other side of the lake. I had taken a job as a night dispatcher for the local sheriff's department. Just me, a radio, a single desk lamp, and an old logbook. It sounded easy enough. Sit through the night, answer the occasional call, drink bad coffee. That was all I expected. Until the calls started coming in. It was my fourth night on the job. Cold had crept into the walls of the station. Around 2 in the morning, the radio crackled. No voice, just static. I leaned forward, adjusted the dial, then a whisper, not a name. Just, it's still there. I froze, asked for clarification. Nothing, just dead air. I logged the event and tried to shake it off. Locals pulling a prank, maybe. But then came the knocking. 3 soft taps on the glass door. I looked up. The hallway outside was dark. No movement, no shadows, just the sound of those taps echoing in my bones. I stepped out, flashlight in hand, but there was nothing. No footprints in the snow, no wind, no sign of anyone. I told myself I imagined it. Maybe I'd fallen asleep. But when I returned to the logbook, those words were written there. It's still there. In handwriting that wasn't mine. The next day, I asked Deputy Harlow about it. He stiffened, looked away. You heard about the Maynard house? He asked. I hadn't. He told me the story like he didn't want to. 30 years ago, the Maynard family vanished from their home by the lake, one by one. First the youngest girl, then the older brother, then the parents. No signs of struggle, no blood, just gone. The house still stands, rotting and untouched. Locals say it's cursed. Sheriff won't let anyone near it after dark. That night, the calls came again. At 1:15, it's watching. At 1:47, don't look at the window. At 2:23, it's behind you. Each time, the voice was closer, louder, and then silence, until the lights in the station cut out. I sat frozen. The radio hissed, and then the door creaked open, just a few inches. I didn't move, didn't breathe. In the faint red glow of the emergency exit sign, I saw something on the floor. A photo. It was me, sitting at the desk, but the window behind me was open, and something pale and long-fingered was reaching in. I spun around. The window was shut, but frost had crept across the glass in the shape of a hand. I left the station at dawn, but I didn't go home. I drove straight to the Maynard house. I don't know why. Maybe I thought confronting it would break the curse. Maybe I was just tired of being afraid. The house was silent, cold. Every step I took echoed like it didn't belong to me. Upstairs, in the children's room, the walls were covered in drawings, crude, childish. All the same figure, tall, faceless, arms like ropes, eyes like empty wells. And then I heard my voice, from the hallway, calling out. Hello. I ran, down the stairs. But the door slammed shut before I reached it. I tried the windows, nailed shut. My flashlight died. The whispers came again, louder now, circling me. It's still there. It never left. You brought it back. I screamed, pounded on the walls. Then everything went quiet. I don't remember falling, just the cold. I woke up hours later in the middle of the woods. Miles from the house, no tire tracks, no footprints, just that photo in my jacket pocket. It's been 6 months. Third story, where the river stopped. I never wanted to go back to Lockwood. It was the kind of Texas town you only remembered because something bad happened there. A place where the trees grew too close together and the sky always seemed a little too dark, even in the summer. I left after high school, swearing I'd never return. But when I got the call that my cousin Dean had gone missing, disappeared without a trace near the old Colorado River bend, I felt the pull. Dean and I grew up like brothers. We used to spend long, hot afternoons fishing down by the water, skipping rocks and daring each other to get closer to the sunken house. That's what we called the ruins buried beneath the riverbank, half submerged, hidden by reeds. Locals always said it was cursed. Back then, we just thought it was cool. Now he was gone, and no one was looking anymore. I drove into Lockwood just before dusk. The place hadn't changed. The same faded gas station, the same closed-down diner, and the same silence that pressed in on your chest like you were already buried. I checked into the one motel still open and asked the old man behind the desk about Dean. He didn't look up. "River takes what it wants," he muttered. I didn't sleep that night. Around 3 a.m., I grabbed a flashlight and hiked to the river. The moon hung low, its pale light bouncing off the water like broken glass. I stood where Dean's boots were found, right at the edge. No blood, no struggle, just his damn boots. Then I saw it. Something moved in the water. It wasn't an animal. It was a shape. Long, pale. It moved like smoke underwater, wrapping around the rocks, disappearing under the surface before rising again on the other side. I felt my heart hammer. My legs moved without thinking. I followed it. The trail led me downstream, through thick brush and broken branches. I came to the old bend, where the ruins of the sunken house still jutted from the mud like teeth. Fog hugged the ground. My flashlight flickered and died. And then I heard him. "Matt." It was Dean's voice. Close. Too close. I turned. No one. "Matt, help me." It came from inside the ruins. Against every instinct, I stepped forward. My feet sank into the wet earth as I pushed open the splintered door, half buried in the ground. Inside, it was cold. Wrong. Like the air didn't belong to this world. Dean stood in the corner, soaking wet, eyes wide. "Get out," he whispered. "It's in here with me." Before I could speak, he lunged at me, but not to attack. He shoved me back through the door, slamming it behind me. I heard him scream. Then, silence. The door vanished. I clawed at the mud, but the house was gone. Just trees. Just river. I stumbled back to town, blood on my hands, breath ragged. I tried telling the sheriff. He told me to leave. "They all go missing down there," he said. "You're lucky it let you go." I left that night, never looked back. But I dream of him. Every night, I see Dean standing in the river, mouth open, eyes black. The same phrase again and again, "It needs more." And now the river's rising, and I know I'll go back.